Bruce Springsteen a superstar. Now at age 73, he's looking back to a moment in his career he considers a turning point.
He spent decades on the road, pouring his soul into every lyric, every guitar riff, every sweat-drenched encore. Bruce Springsteen isn't just a rock icon, he's the heartbeat of American music. But lately, even the boss himself has started to wonder if the music that once saved him is now slowly wearing him down. After years of endless tours, personal battles, and haunting reflections, Springsteen is hinting that the end might finally be near. So what's really driving him to step back? Exhaustion, age, or something far else? Join us as we get into all the details. The making of the boss. Born on September 23, 1949 in Long Branch, New Jersey, Bruce Springsteen didn't grow up surrounded by privilege or promise. His story began in a small working-class home in Freehold Borough, the kind of place where dreams often took a back seat to survival. His father, Doug, was a man constantly at war with himself and the world around him. He drifted from one job to another, bus driver, mill worker, prison guard, but stability never stayed long. His mother, Adele, held the family together, clocking in day after day at a local insurance office. Her steady paycheck, the only constant in a house full of tension. For young Bruce, home wasn't a refuge, it was a battlefield. He later reflected that two things were unwelcome in his house, himself and his guitar. That line wasn't bitterness, it was truth. The distance between father and son wasn't measured in miles, but in silence, frustration, and fear. Doug's drinking and unpredictable moods left deep marks on Bruce's spirit. As a boy, he would be sent to fetch his father from the bar, dreading the walk home. Nights often ended with shouting, the smell of beer thick in the air, and Bruce locking himself in his room, curling up in bed as the chaos seeped through the walls. Those moments would linger for decades, molding not just the man but the music, the raw, haunting ache that became his signature sound. Yet even in that darkness, something flickered, a spark that would later set entire stadiums on fire. That spark first ignited the night Bruce saw Elvis Presley perform on The Ed Sullivan Show. For him, Elvis wasn't just a singer, he was a revelation. He was as big as the whole country itself, Bruce once said, describing the way Presley embodied every dream, every hunger, every rebellion buried in America's bones. That moment cracked something open inside him. He picked up a guitar at 7, determined to find his own sound, though the lessons didn't last long. The strings hurt, the chords were stubborn, and eventually he gave up. But that hunger, it never left. By 13, the fire was back. Bruce bought a beaten-up $18 acoustic guitar from a second-hand store, and this time, he refused to let go. He learnt by ear, by instinct, by sheer will, watching local guitarists and imitating every note until it felt like breathing. Music became his escape, his language, and his armor. When he turned 16, his mother, always his quiet champion, took out a loan to buy him a $60 Kent guitar. That small act of love would later become immortalized in his song The Wish, a tribute to the woman who believed in him when no one else did. But Bruce's teenage years were far from perfect. In Catholic school, he was the misfit kid who never quite belonged. He was too loud, too restless, too different. Once, a nun stuffed him in a garbage can and told him that's where he belonged. Another time, a priest knocked him down during Mass. By the time he hit high school, he was done trying to fit in. He even skipped his own graduation, unable to face the small-town stares that never understood him. By the mid-1960s, the world outside was changing, and Bruce was changing with it. He joined his first band, the Rogues, playing small gigs at local clubs. The roar of an audience, even a small one, gave him something his home never did: validation. Soon after, he became the frontman of another group, the Castiles, his first real taste of being the guy with something to say and a stage to say it on. Then came 1967, the year the Vietnam draft loomed. At 18, Bruce received his notice and his mind was clear: I ain't going. He showed up for his physical with a concussion from a motorcycle accident and a reputation for being a little crazy. The Army stamped him 4F, unfit for service, and that single letter changed his life. While others were shipped overseas, Bruce stayed home, free to chase music full-time. He tried college for a while at Ocean County, but it didn't stick. He was the long-haired kid in a narrow-minded world, and after enough taunting and tension, he walked away. By 19, Bruce Springsteen wasn't a student or a soldier, or even a son still searching for approval. He was something else entirely. A musician in the making, a storyteller sharpening his pen, a rebel quietly tuning his guitar in the shadows of Freehold, ready to turn every wound, every bruise, every memory into something that could outlast them all. He didn't know it yet, but those early battles, the father who couldn't love him the way he needed, the nuns who crushed his spirit, and the loneliness that clung to him like a second skin were the making of him. Born to Run, the rise of a rock poet and the sound that saved him. By the late 1960s, Bruce Springsteen had become a familiar face around Asbury Park, a scrappy seaside town on the New Jersey shore where dreams and desperation often shared the same stage. Nights were spent in smoky clubs, guitars slung low, playing until dawn with whatever band would have him. There was no fame yet, just raw hunger. It was there, in those crowded, beer-soaked rooms, that he began making the sound that would one day define him. Gritty, soulful, and honest enough to bleed. In 1969, Bruce joined Steel Mill, a local band that became his proving ground. It was with Steel Mill that he met the musicians who would later form the backbone of the E Street Band, men who shared his restlessness and his drive to make something bigger than themselves. They toured up and down the East Coast, chasing gigs, sleeping on floors, and living off the applause of strangers. Around that time, Bruce picked up a nickname that would follow him for life, the Boss. Not because he demanded it, but because he was the one who collected the band's pay and split it evenly. It was practical, fair, and strangely prophetic. Even then, Bruce was quietly running the show. Steel Mill lasted only a couple of years, but it gave Bruce what he needed: clarity. He was done covering other people's songs. He wanted to tell his own stories, write about the world he knew, the factories, the small towns, and the working-class dreams that never made the news. By 1972, his sound had caught the attention of Columbia Records' legendary producer John Hammond, the same man who discovered Bob Dylan. One audition later, Bruce had a deal. He gathered his trusted bandmates, Vinnie Lopez, Danny Federici, and Steven Van Zandt, and together they became the E Street Band. The name, as Bruce once recalled, came easy. We were on the bus one night trying to come up with something. E Street just had a nice ring to it. Simple, honest, like the music they made. In January 1973, Springsteen released his debut album, Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey. It was poetic, gritty, and bursting with ambition, a postcard from the Jersey Shore to the rest of the world. The album didn't make him a star, but it made people listen. One track, Blinded by the Light, would later be covered by Manfred Mann's Earth Band and climb the charts, giving Bruce his first taste of how far his words could travel. Later that same year, he released The Wild, The Innocent, and the E Street Shuffle. It didn't chart, but it didn't have to. The energy was there, the romance, the struggle. Rosalita, Come Out Tonight became the kind of song that turned every concert into a celebration, even before Bruce had truly arrived. The critics compared him to Dylan, the poetry, the politics, and the way his lyrics spoke for the overlooked. But Bruce wanted none of it. As he later admitted, the comparisons made him self-conscious. "I moved away from that style," he said, "because I didn't want to be the next anyone." He wasn't chasing folk wisdom or protest anthems. He was chasing truth. That truth found its voice in Born to Run. Everything led to that record, every heartbreak, every sleepless night, every dive bar gig. It was his breakout, his rebellion, his prayer. The title track hit like lightning, soaring into the Billboard Top 40 and turning Bruce Springsteen from a Jersey musician into a national voice. By the end of that year, he was on the covers of Time and Newsweek in the same week, a level of fame that felt both surreal and dangerous. But behind the headlines, his life was unraveling. The lawsuit that nearly broke Springsteen. Fame had come fast, but freedom came with a price. Bruce's contract with his manager, Mike Appel, was quietly choking him. He was earning only a fraction of what he deserved and had little to no control over his own music. Every note, every lyric, every decision ran through someone else's hands. When he sued Appel in 1976, the move backfired. He was barred from recording until the case was resolved. For nearly a year, he couldn't set foot in a studio. Instead, he poured himself into live shows, channeling all that frustration into marathon performances that would become the stuff of legend. When the lawsuit finally ended in 1977, Bruce walked away with his freedom and a new ally, music critic John Landau, who had once written, "I saw rock and roll's future, and its name is Bruce Springsteen." Landau became his manager and co-producer, helping him focus that restless energy into Darkness on the Edge of Town, 1978. It was darker, more mature, a reflection of a man who had tasted success and seen its shadows. Then came The River, his first numberless one album. It was sprawling, emotional, and perfectly balanced between the personal and the political. Songs like Hungry Heart and Fade Away captured both the joy and ache of working-class life, and the record earned him another Grammy nod. But the fame, the tours, the endless noise, it caught up to him. By the time he recorded Nebraska, Bruce was sinking into a deep depression. Alone in his home in Colts Neck, he recorded the entire album on a 4-track cassette. No studio, no band, just him, a guitar, and ghosts from his past. "I hit a personal wall," he later admitted. "It was my first real depression, and I realized I had to face it." Nebraska was quiet, haunting, and stripped to the bone. Not a commercial hit, but a masterpiece of raw emotion. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about survival. And for Bruce Springsteen, that had always been the point. Bruce Springsteen's depression. For most of his life, Bruce Springsteen turned pain into poetry. But there came a point when even the music couldn't drown out the noise inside him. At 32, at the height of his fame, he found himself standing in a small-town fair, watching children laugh and couples dance under the shiny carnival lights. It should have been comforting, ordinary even, but instead, it broke something open in Springsteen. As he later told Esquire in 2018, he didn't understand why such a simple, happy scene filled him with despair. "All I do know," he reflected, "is as we age, the weight of our unsorted baggage becomes heavier, much heavier." That moment was his first mental breakdown, the point where the armor cracked. For years, Bruce had built his life on motion, tours, records, crowds, applause. But standing there, he realized the defenses that once protected him, the toughness, the control, the relentless work were now the very things keeping him from feeling alive. The same walls that made him the boss were closing in on the man beneath. According to his longtime friend and biographer Dave Marsh, fame only intensified the storm that was already brewing within him. Marsh described it as a rocket ride, the kind that takes someone from nothing to everything almost overnight, surrounded by constant praise and attention. He explained that in moments like that, a person could easily start questioning their own value, wondering what their self-worth truly rested on. And Bruce did. The cheers grew louder than ever, but inside, he was quietly fading. Healing didn't come easy. He turned to therapy, medication, and deep introspection, the kind that doesn't happen on stage but in silence. Yet even years later, at 62, he found himself sinking again. In his memoir, Born to Run, he revealed another breakdown, one that forced him to face a deeper truth. The shadow of his father's pain lived inside him too. As he admitted to Vanity Fair, he feared becoming the man who had haunted his youth. Bruce Springsteen survived the fame, the fortune, and the fear. But perhaps his greatest act of strength was learning that even the boss could break and still rise again. But healing doesn't always erase the scars. Sometimes it just teaches you how to live with them. And for Bruce, those scars began to shape the way he loved, trusted, and reached for connection. The same man who could command a stadium of 50,000 people still struggled to hold one person close without feeling trapped by his own insecurities. It was in this fragile space between self-discovery and self-destruction that his personal life began to fracture slowly. Then, all at once, the boss's broken vows, inside Bruce Springsteen's secret affair and shattered first marriage. By the mid-1980s, Bruce Springsteen was living the kind of success most artists only dream of. Born in the USA had turned him into an American icon, the blue-collar poet who gave the working man a voice. But beneath the fame, behind the leather jacket and the Heartland anthems, Bruce was still the kid from Freehold, New Jersey, restless, searching and quietly haunted by his own shadows. And it was in that turbulent space between glory and loneliness that he met Julianne Phillips, the woman who would become his first wife and the center of one of the most complicated chapters of his life. They met in October 1984 at one of his Los Angeles concerts, introduced by Bruce's booking agent, Barry Bell. Phillips was everything Bruce wasn't, serene and radiant in a way that didn't demand attention, but commanded it. She was a model and actress, born in Evanston, Illinois, and raised in the suburbs of Lake Oswego, Oregon. The youngest of 6 children, Julianne had built her life through determination, not connections. She'd gone from managing an LA department store to signing with elite modeling agency in New York, eventually landing acting roles in TV movies and comedies like A Fine Mess and Fletch Lives. When Bruce met her, she wasn't chasing fame. She already had her own. The chemistry was instant, and so was the whirlwind that followed. 7 months later, on May 13, 1985, they were married just after midnight at Our Lady of the Lake Catholic Church in Julianne's hometown. It was an intimate ceremony with only about 40 guests, mostly family and close friends, including Stephen Van Zandt and Clarence Clemens from the E Street Band. The wedding had been moved up 2 days to avoid the paparazzi, and for a brief moment it felt like Bruce had found peace. The groom wore a blue suit and the bride an antique lace gown and a bouquet of gardenias. It was a very happy event, her sister-in-law recalled, and for a while it truly was. Julianne even made a small cameo in Bruce's Glory Days music video later that year, waving to him from a car as he jogged across a baseball field. It was a blink-and-you'll-miss-it moment, but in hindsight it was telling. The smiling wife waiting in the car while the restless man runs toward something else. Behind closed doors, things were already starting to unravel. Bruce was battling anxiety, depression, and a growing sense of displacement within his own marriage. He wrote in his memoir, Born to Run, that soon after their wedding, he began experiencing severe anxiety attacks and disturbing thoughts he couldn't control. I tried to hide them as best I could, he admitted, and that was a mistake. He described being consumed by irrational fears, including the paranoid belief that Julianne had married him to advance her career. Nothing could have been further from the truth, he later reflected. Julianne loved me and didn't have a malicious bone in her body. But love wasn't enough to silence the chaos inside him. Bruce's mental health was deteriorating, and the pressure of fame only made things worse. His biographer Dave Marsh once described him as a man on a rocket ride, adored, idolized, and trapped in an image he couldn't escape. Bruce himself admitted later that he didn't know how to be married. He wasn't ready for the stillness of domestic life, the part of adulthood that asks for vulnerability instead of performance. As he struggled privately, his art started to reflect his unraveling. The 1987 album Tunnel of Love was filled with songs about love, doubt, and emotional distance. Tracks like One Step Up and Ain't Got You felt like diary entries, confessions set to music. We've given each other some hard lessons lately, he sang in One Step Up, but we aren't learning. We're the same sad story. That's a fact. Stephen Van Zandt, his longtime friend and guitarist, later admitted that Bruce was writing straight from his life. He was trying to be honest about his situation, Van Zandt said, but sometimes you can be too honest. By 1988, the cracks had become impossible to ignore. Bruce and Julianne separated privately, without a public announcement, hoping to protect what little privacy they had left. But when photos surfaced of Bruce in Rome with his backup singer Patti Scialfa, the story exploded. The headlines wrote themselves, The Boss's Affair, and Bruce and the backup singer, and Julianne, the woman who had once stood proudly beside him, was suddenly left to face the world's judgment alone. Bruce later confessed that he handled the separation abysmally. We released no press statement, he wrote, causing furore, pain, and scandal when the news leaked out. I made a tough thing more heartbreaking than necessary. I placed her in a terribly difficult position, and I failed her as a husband and a partner. It was a rare moment of accountability. one that showed the man behind the myth. Julianne filed for divorce in August 1988, citing irreconcilable differences. The divorce was finalized on March 1, 1989. She never spoke publicly about Bruce again, except to acknowledge that the experience changed her. In Peter Ames Carlin's biography, Bruce, she described that time as a period of incredible growth and introspection. She said she would forever give that credit to Bruce. Her words weren't bitter, they were graceful, the kind of grace that comes from surviving heartbreak and choosing peace. By 1991, Bruce had married Patti Scialfa, the woman who had once harmonized with him on stage and, in time, became his partner off it. Together, they built the kind of grounded life he couldn't find the first time around, raising 3 children and weathering the storms as a family. Looking back, Bruce has never spoken of Julianne with anything but respect. "My first wife's one of the best people I've ever met," he told the New York Times in 1997. "She's lovely, intelligent, and a great person. But we were pretty different, and I realized I didn't know how to be married." And though it ended in heartbreak and scandal, it also became part of his evolution, another verse in the long, messy song of being human. When the music stopped, the battle that silenced Bruce Springsteen. For decades, Bruce Springsteen has stood on stage like an unstoppable force. But in 2023, even the boss had to stop. That September, he announced that he was postponing all upcoming performances with the E Street Band to receive treatment for peptic ulcer disease. For fans, it was a shock. Bruce had always seemed indestructible, the living embodiment of grit and endurance. But this time, the fight wasn't on stage. It was inside his own body. On his Sirius XM show From My Home to Yours a month later, Bruce spoke with that same dry humor fans loved. But beneath the jokes was a quiet honesty. He admitted the pain had been tremendous. His bandmate and longtime friend Steven Van Zandt later confessed to USA Today that even he had no idea how bad it was. Bruce had played 5 shows while dealing with searing discomfort, pushing through agony the way he always had, by showing up. By March 2024, the truth came out in his interview on E Street Radio. The illness had attacked his diaphragm, the core of his voice. "You sing with your diaphragm," he explained. "Mine was hurting so badly that when I went to make the effort to sing, it was killing me." For the first time in his career, Bruce couldn't do the thing that defined him. He couldn't sing, he couldn't perform, and that scared him. For months, there were no answers, just waiting, hoping, and a growing fear that maybe the music had finally stopped. But time, rest, and resilience worked their quiet magic. By August 2024, Bruce had returned to the stage, smiling as he told the crowd he wasn't done yet. The fire was still there, a little battered maybe, but burning just the same, because even pain couldn't silence the boss. Patti's silent battle, the illness that tested the boss's heart. There are some battles that even rock legends can't play their way out of, and for Bruce Springsteen, this one hit close to home. In 2024, as he was slowly finding his rhythm again after his own health scare, his wife and longtime bandmate, Patti Scialfa, revealed something that shook the world. She had been diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a form of blood cancer. The news came quietly, not through tabloids or press leaks, but through honesty. During the premiere of Bruce's Road Diary documentary at the Toronto Film Festival, Patti shared her diagnosis. At 71, she wasn't looking for sympathy or headlines, just understanding. "This affects my immune system, so I have to be careful what I choose to do and where I choose to go," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. "Every once in a while, I come to a show or two, and I can sing a few songs on stage, and that's been a treat. That's the new normal for me right now, and I'm okay with that." It was classic Patti, honest, grounded, and fierce. She revealed that the diagnosis actually dated back to 2018, during Bruce's Broadway run. Years of private struggle carried with dignity, even as the world saw her only through the glow of the stage lights. When the news finally became public, Bruce stepped forward to reassure fans in the ABC News special Backstage and Backstreets. "She's doing good," he said softly. "We caught it early, which was important. It's a tough disease. It's very fatiguing." You could hear both relief and weariness in his words, the kind that comes from watching someone you love fight something invisible. He also revealed why Patti decided to open up about it now. She hadn't played in the band in a long time, and people didn't know why. They kept asking, Where's Patty? For years, she had quietly stepped back, letting the music go on without her while she focused on staying well. Multiple myeloma isn't a fight for the faint-hearted. It's a blood cancer that starts in the bone marrow and can affect the spine, ribs, and pelvis. It weakens the immune system, causes chronic fatigue, and brings pain that lingers like a shadow. Yet through it all, Patty found her rhythm again, slower, gentler, but still hers. By the time Road Diary hit the screen, Patty had begun rejoining the E Street Band for select performances, savoring every song like a small miracle. For Bruce, it was more than just having his wife back on stage. It was about having his partner beside him, the woman who'd been his harmony through life's noise. Patty wasn't just a bandmate, she was his balance. Together, they'd built a family, raised 3 children, and weathered storms that fame could never prepare them for. From the outside, their love story has always looked effortless, but those who know them understand it's built on something far deeper. Mutual respect, shared scars, and the kind of devotion that outlasts youth and stage lights. Now, as Bruce turned 76 with more than 50 years in music behind him, he's made one thing clear: he's not ready to quit. During a show in Philadelphia, he addressed rumors of retirement head-on. "We've been around 50 years and we aren't quitting. We aren't doing any farewell tour, bulls." The crowd roared, and Bruce grinned like a man still in love with the music, with his band, and with life itself. "Farewell to what?" he shouted. "Thousands of people screaming your name, that's all it takes. I'm not going anywhere." His words weren't just bravado. They were a statement of defiance, not just against time, but against the fragility that comes with it. Bruce has battled his own body and watched the woman he loves face hers, and somehow both of them keep showing up. Patty may not be on every stage anymore, but when she does appear, when she steps into that spotlight, microphone in hand, beside the man who's been her partner in every sense, it's more than a performance. It's proof of survival. And if there's one thing Bruce Springsteen and Patty Scialfa have proven, it's that even in the face of life's hardest truths, the song goes on. Which Bruce Springsteen song is still your favorite till this very day? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.